Hey everybody, it's Andrew here and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well. Today we have another update directly from Bernie Sanders himself, discussing the things that we want to get done on this channel, things like Social Security increases, SSI and SSDI increases, the expansion of Medicare, lowering prescription drug costs, and even approving stimulus checks for seniors and those who are disabled. So let's take a look and see what Bernie Sanders said, but before we jump into it, do me a quick favor. As always, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. This is a community for seniors, and my job here is to be a voice for you and be a voice for seniors to make sure President Biden keeps his promises to increase Social Security, SSI, and SSDI, and even approve a stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package. So thank you so much for being a part of our community, and if you really want to support my work, subscribe to my second channel. The link to that is going to be in the comments of this video. Now, just last night, Bernie Sanders held an interview discussing why exactly all of these things have to get done, and he actually responded to something President Biden just said. President Biden came out and said, "I am not Bernie Sanders," as if that was a bad thing. Now, recently, President Biden has been getting a lot of slack for acting as more of a progressive as opposed to a moderate president, which is what he ran as. Now, I'll be honest, that's pretty accurate. He's been really aligning himself with progressive Democrats, and sometimes that can be a bad thing for some people. A lot of people who watch my videos are conservatives, but at the same time, I think on this channel and in this community, we're all aligned based on around a couple of things, like taking care of seniors and taking care of those who are disabled. I think whether you're conservative or progressive or Democrat or Republican, in this community, that is a common thread that unites all of us, and that's why I love this community. So although Bernie Sanders isn't perfect when it comes to everything, some of you might love everything he does, some of you might hate a lot of the things he does, but we all agree that he fights for seniors, he fights for those who are disabled, he fights to lower prescription drug costs, expand Medicare, provide more affordable housing, all of these things that help seniors and those who are disabled. Well, the weird problem is that President Biden has kind of aligned himself with Bernie Sanders over the last couple of years, but now he's slightly trying to distance himself, and he came out and said that he likes Bernie, but he's not Bernie, and he is still a moderate Democrat. So Bernie Sanders responded to that, gave his 2 cents on that comment, and then went on to discuss why all of these things that we're trying to get done are so important for seniors, why we need Social Security increases, why we need an increase in SSI and SSDI. We need to lower prescription drug prices. We need to expand Medicare to include vision, dental, and hearing care. We need to provide more affordable housing, and we need to provide seniors and those who are disabled direct stimulus checks to help them combat inflation and deal with the increased cost of goods. So, with that said, folks, huge update from Bernie Sanders. Please stick around. Let's take a look, see what Bernie Sanders had to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
Donna, what's most important is that the ideas that we are fighting for are enormously popular, enormously popular. 70, 80% of the American people want us to Medicare to negotiate prescription drug costs. People want to expand Medicare. People want to deal with the crisis of climate. So what we are talking about is what the American people want.
President Biden singled you out at his press conference this week when he was asked if he was governing too far to the left. Take a listen.
You guys have been trying to convince me that I am Bernie Sanders. I'm not. I like him, but I'm not Bernie Sanders. I'm not a socialist. I'm a mainstream Democrat, and I have been.
What was your reaction when you heard that?
Well, I'm not Joe Biden. I like him, but I'm not Joe Biden. I'm a progressive who believes that the Democratic Party should make it clear that we are prepared to take on powerful special interests like the drug companies, like the insurance companies, like the fossil fuel industry, that we have to demand that the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes. So look, I think President Biden has done something quite unusual. He has taken a hard look at the problems facing the American people. He's brought forth legislation to try to address that. And I respect that. But obviously, we have our strong differences.
And what do you say to those who say that part of the reason why that you're stuck, as you just described, in process and policy is because Joe Biden is governing more like Bernie Sanders than Joe Biden, and that's not what the American people asked for?
Well, I would turn that around and say, how does it happen that the policies we are now fighting for are enormously popular? You know, CNN did some polling out there. Ask whether the American people think it's time to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. Ask whether we should be dealing with the existential threat of climate. Should we be building affordable housing? Should we be dealing with child care crisis? And the American people say, yeah, it's about time you did it. We're seeing the very richest people in this country, Dana, becoming incredibly richer during this pandemic, while tens of millions of American workers are struggling to make ends meet. The American people want us to have the courage to stand up to powerful special interest.
Senator,
that's what they want, and that's what we've got to do.
Here we are 1 year into the Biden presidency. Those two key priorities are stalled in the Senate, the social spending bill and climate bill, the election reform legislation. It's because Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema won't get on board. How frustrated are you?
Well, it's not only those two, it is 50 Republicans who have been adamant not only in pushing an anti-democratic agenda, but also opposing our efforts to try to lower the cost of prescription drugs, trying to expand Medicare to include dental, hearing, and eyeglasses, to improve the disastrous situation in home health care, in child care, to address the existential threat of climate change. You got 50 Republicans who don't want to do anything except criticize the president. And then you have, sadly enough, 2 Democrats who choose to work with the Republicans rather than the president, and who have sabotaged the president's effort to address the needs of working families in this country. Is it frustrating? It sure is. But my view, Dana, is we need a new direction, a new approach in the Senate. I think after 6 months of negotiating, so-called negotiating behind closed doors with Senators Manchin and Senator Sinema, we need to start voting. We need to bring important pieces of legislation that impact the lives of working families right onto the floor of the Senate. And if the Republicans want to vote against lowering the cost of prescription drugs, climate change, home health care, whatever it may be, and if the Democrats, 2 Democrats want to join them, let the American people see what's happening. Then we can pick up the pieces and pass legislation.
So I want to get
but
to
the current course of action. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to get to more of that and really drill down on what you mean by that in 1 second. But while we're talking about the 2 senators, the 2 Democratic senators, you saw, I'm sure, that the Arizona Democratic Party censured Senator Sinema. Was that appropriate?
Absolutely it was. On that particular vote that she and Manchin cast, we were trying to address the reality that you got 19 Republican states all over this country who are undermining the foundations of American democracy, trying to make it harder for people of color, young people, people with disabilities to vote, coming up with extreme gerrymandering, taking action against independent election officials. And it is so important that we protect American democracy, that we stand up to the big lie of Trump and his allies that he really won the election. And they undermined that effort. I think what the Arizona Democrats did was exactly right.
Would you be willing to campaign against either Senator Sinema and or Senator Manchin in a Democratic primary?
Well, that's a long way coming. They're not up until 2024. But if there were strong candidates in those states who were prepared to stand up for working families, who understand that the Democratic Party has got to be the party of working people taking on big money interests, if those candidates were there in Arizona and West Virginia, yes, I would be happy to support them.
Okay, let's go back to the notion of how you're going to do what President Biden talked about, passing what he called big chunks of the social spending and climate plan. You say you want every senator to vote. Can you specifically talk about how you're going to, or you want to go about doing that? How can you get these things, not just to have political votes to show that Republicans are against it, but more importantly, how can you pass at least the bare minimum of what you think you can?
Well, I think Donna, what's most important is that the ideas that we are fighting for are enormously popular, enormously popular. 70, 80% of the American people want us to Medicare to negotiate prescription drug costs. People want to expand Medicare. People want to deal with the crisis of climate. So what we are talking about is what the American people want. And I think when you bring bills on the floor, we have allowed the Republicans to get away with murder. They haven't had to vote on anything. Now, if they want to vote against lowering the cost of prescription drugs, expanding Medicare, dealing with child care, dealing with housing, let them vote. And let Manchin and Sinema decide which side they are on. And when all of that shakes out, we'll see where we are. I have the feeling that we will be able to get 50 votes or more on some of these issues. We can put that piece together and then pass something that's very significant.
So if I'm understanding you right, you're saying put all of these policy initiatives on the Senate floor, let them get a vote, and let's be honest, they'll probably fail. And then once that happens, you'll craft legislation that can actually pass on specific parts of the Democratic agenda that have enough support?
Once that happens, Dana, we will know where we stand. I am not quite so sure that you're not going to get at least 50 votes to lower the cost of prescription drugs or to expand Medicaid or deal with climate. But once we know where people are at, then we can say, all right, look, we got 50 votes here, we got 51 votes here, 49 votes here. Let's do it. But what has bothered me very much is the Republicans are laughing all the way to Election Day. They have not had to cast one bloody vote which shows us where they're at, and we've got to change that.
Is Senator Schumer, the majority leader, on board with this strategy that you're describing today?
Well, this is a discussion that we're going to have not only with Senator Schumer, but with the entire Democratic caucus. I think there is widespread understanding that what we have done for the last 6 months has failed from a policy point of view. It has failed politically. We need to change course. We need to have the courage to take on the Republicans and let Manchin and Sinema decide which side they are on.
I want you to listen to something that you told me on the show just after Democrats took unified control of government just about a year ago.
You have Democrats who have slim majorities in the House and the Senate. We got President Biden in the White House. If we do not respond now, yes, I believe 2 years from now, the Republicans will say, hey, you elected these guys. They did nothing. Vote for us, and they will win.
So given where you are now, have Democrats delivered enough to win control in November?
Well, we have done, remember, we're taking on the incredible obstructionism of 50 Republicans who have turned their backs on working families in this country. And we have 2 Democrats who have sabotaged the president's agenda. But we did pass the American Rescue Plan, which was one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in the modern history of this country, got money into the hands of working families, cut childhood poverty by 40%, gave money to hospitals and medical centers all over this country, and helped us stabilize the economy. We also passed an infrastructure bill, the most significant piece of infrastructure bill since Dwight D. Eisenhower in the 1950s. So we are making some progress, but clearly we have been stalled by the sabotage, if you like, of 2 Democrats who have refused to support what the president and 48 of us want to do.